The Dragonback series by Timothy Zahn. Book 1, Dragon and Thief. Chapter 4. It was about the last thing Jack would ever have expected for one of the dead bodies aboard the wrecked ship to suddenly come alive and charge at him. With a startled gasp, he jumped backwards, reflexively throwing up an arm in front of his eyes. There was a flash of gold right in his face. He blinked, and then, without a sound, it was gone. He spun around, nearly losing his balance on the litter-strewn deck. The dragon had vanished. Only then did he remember the tangler belted at his waist. He yanked out the weapon and popped off the safety catch, breathing hard and trembling with reaction as he looked wildly around. The dragon was gone, all right. Only one small problem. There wasn't any place it could have gone to. It couldn't possibly have made it across the room and out the doorway back there, not in the half second it had taken Jack to turn around. With most everything solid in the room lying in broken piles on the floor, there was no place in the room itself for it to hide. So where was it? Jack! Uncle Verge's voice called urgently from the comm clip on his shirt collar. What is it? What's going on? Come on, lad, speak up! That dragon, Jack said. To his embarrassment, his voice was trembling. He hated when it did that. It jumped at me. At least I thought it did. What happened? Did it bite you? Claw you? No, I don't think so, Jack said, still looking around. I mean, I don't feel anything. Check your clothes, Uncle Verge ordered. Look for rips or blood. Sometimes you don't feel injuries like that right away. Jack glanced down at his shirt. No, there's nothing. It just jumped at me and then disappeared. What do you mean, disappeared? Disappeared where? Jack didn't answer. The immediate shock of the incident was beginning to fade. And as it did so, he suddenly became aware that there was something odd about the way his skin felt, almost as if there was a thin coating of paint or something on his chest and back. He reached in under his shirt collar and touched his shoulder. It was skin, all right. Normal, everyday skin. It certainly didn't feel any different than usual to his fingertips. His back didn't feel any different either as he slid his hand down along his shoulder blade as far as it would go. But the odd sensation persisted. Jack? Hang on a second, Jack said, draping his leather jacket across the back of a broken chair and sliding his tangler back into its holster. Working a finger under the ceiling seam running down the front of his shirt, he unsealed it and pulled it open. He caught his breath. There, angling across his chest and stomach, was a wide golden band. It wrapped around his rib cage at both the top and bottom, disappearing around toward his back. Like a tuxedo cummerbund that hadn't been put on straight, he thought, or maybe the formal sash he'd sometimes seen military leaders wear. There was texturing to it, too, he saw. A golden fish-scaled pattern with a silver sliver of red at the edge of each scale. The same pattern as the vanished dragon. A horrible thought struck him. Pulling the shirt free from his jeans, he slid it all the way off his right arm so that it was hanging on his left arm and shoulder. Twisting his head around, he looked down at his right shoulder, to find himself gazing directly into the dragon's face. Yo! He yelled, jerking his head back and jumping 3 feet to his left. It was like trying to jump away from his own body, and about as successful. The picture of the dragon didn't disappear or slide off or anything like that. It was still there as if it had been painted on him. Then, to his utter astonishment, the face rose slowly out of his skin, like the top of an alligator's head rising up through the surface of the water. The long upper jaw opened slightly, giving him a glimpse of sharp teeth. Don't be afraid, a soft, snake-like voice said. Jack screeched loud enough to hurt his own ears. His tangler was in his left hand, though he had no memory of having drawn it, and with all his strength he slammed the short barrel down on the dragon's head. But the beast was too fast for him. It sank flat onto his skin again, and Jack's screech turned into a howl of pain as his attack succeeded only in bruising his own shoulder. Ignoring the pain, he struck again and again, stumbling sideways in a useless attempt to get away. Through the noise of his own panicked babbling, he was distinctly aware that there were 2 different voices shouting at him. He ignored them. Voices didn't matter. Nothing mattered but to somehow get this thing off him. He was still flailing around when his foot caught on something and he toppled over onto his side. Or rather, he should have toppled over onto his side. But even as he tried to get his arm around to break his fall, the feeling on his skin shifted, and something somehow broke his fall, setting him more or less gently onto the broken control board he'd been tumbling toward. But gentle landing or not, the sudden fall snapped him out of his mindless attack on himself. Gasping for breath, he half sat, half lay there, his shoulder throbbing with the multiple blows he'd just brilliantly hammered down on it. In his left ear, he could hear Uncle Verge's voice shouting from the con clip on his shirt collar, demanding to know what was happening. In his right ear, the snake-like voice he'd heard earlier was speaking again. "Everyone, shut up!" he ordered between gasps. "You hear me? Everyone just shut up!" Both voices were obediently silent. Jack took a few more breaths, trying desperately to calm down. His efforts were only a limited success. "All right," he said at last. "You, voice number 2, the one who isn't Uncle Verge. Who are you?" "My name is Dracos," the snake voice replied from somewhere behind him, the sound tingling strangely against his skin. Jack twisted around to look, but there was nothing there. The dragon head had disappeared from his shoulder, but out of the corner of his eye he could just see the tip of the snout further around on his back. "I am a poet warrior of the Kada. Who are you?" "I'm Jack Morgan," Jack said, his voice starting to shake again. Now for the big question. "Where are you?" "Tell me first how you came to be aboard my ship," Draco said. "Are you an enemy of the Kada and Shantine?" "I'm not an enemy of anyone," Jack protested, scrambling back to his feet. "I saw your ship go down and I came to check it out. That's all." "Did you see our attackers?" The voice, Jack noted uneasily, moved with him, still tingling his shoulder. "Well," Jack hesitated, wondering how much to say. "We saw the battle," he said. "It looked like the guys in the little ships went aboard the big ones afterward. And there were more of your people. Are there more of your people up there?" There was a soft sigh, even more snake-like than the voice. "They were my people," Draco said. "They are all dead now." "We don't know that," Jack said, feeling an obscure urge to be comforting. "Those Jin 90s can't have that many soldiers to put aboard." "There is no one left to fight them," the dragon said softly. "The Kada and Shantine were already dead." "All of them?" Uncle Verge's voice asked, sounding surprised. "All of them," Draco said. "The weapon that was used against us kills all that it touches. It does not leave survivors." Jack thought back to the purple tornadoes he'd seen playing against the freighter's sides. A weapon that killed right through hull plates? "What about you?" he asked. "You survived." "An unintended mercy," Draco said. "We were already falling, and they thought merely to save themselves further effort." Jack took a deep breath. It was pretty obvious by now what was going on. He still hoped he was wrong, but right or wrong, it was time to take the plunge and find out for sure. "You're on my back, aren't you?" he asked. "Wrapped around me like like a thin sheet of plastic." "Yes," Draco said. "You're what?" Uncle Verge demanded. "You're where?" "It's like he's a picture painted there," Jack said, "or a full-body tattoo, like you see sometimes on Zandig music stars." "What do you mean, like a tattoo?" Uncle Verge said, sounding every bit as bewildered as Jack felt. "How can something alive be like a tattoo?" "What, you think I know?" Jack shot back. "Look, if I could explain it—" "Please," Draco's cut in. "Permit me." Jack looked down. The dragon's head had slid back into view on his shoulder and was turning back and forth as if looking for something. "There," Draco said. "That data reader." "Where?" Jack asked, frowning at the debris. A second later, he jumped again as a sudden bit of extra weight came onto the back of his right arm, and a gold-scaled limb unexpectedly rose up out from that spot. A short finger or toe or whatever it was extended from the paw, pointing to a small, flat instrument about 3 inches square lying among the debris on the deck. "There," Draco said. "Go and kneel down beside it." Swallowing, Jack obeyed. This was the very spot, he noted uneasily, where the dragon had been crouching when he came in. Could this thing be a weapon? "Now what?" "I will give you a picture of what I am," Draco said. "Do you see how the reader lies on the deck? Where they meet, the reader is a two-dimensional object. Do you agree?" "Well, no, it's three-dimensional," Jack said. "It has length, width, and thickness." "But it is two-dimensional where it meets the deck," Dracos repeated. "At that meeting, it has only length and width. Do you agree?" Jack shrugged. "Fine, whatever you say." "It is not a matter of what I say," Draco said, sounding impatient. "It is a matter of whether you understand. Consider the deck to be a two-dimensional universe, with the data reader as a two-dimensional object existing within it. There is no thickness there, only length and width. 2 dimensions only. Do you understand?" "I understood before," Jack said, a little impatience of his own starting to peek out through the heavy curtain of weirdness hanging over the whole thing. Having not been killed and eaten on the spot, he was starting to lose some of his initial fear, and he had better things to do than play word games with this Dracos character. "So what?" "Very well," Draco said. "Now lift the data reader so that one edge remains on the deck." Jack did as instructed. "Okay, so?" "In this picture, the data reader is still two-dimensional," Draco said. "Yet to an observer within the two-dimensional universe of the deck, it now appears as a one-dimensional portion of a line. It has length only, but no width. The part that would give it width has lifted away along a third dimension." Jack stared down at the reader, a funny tingling sensation creeping across the skin at the back of his neck. Was Draco saying what he thought he was saying? "Are you trying to tell me," he asked slowly, "that you're really three-dimensional, but that you somehow become two-dimensional, just plain flat, and then that you somehow pasted yourself across my back?" "I am still three-dimensional," Draco said. "As with the data reader, most of my body is now projected along a fourth dimension, outside the bounds of this universe." On Jack's left shoulder, the comm clip had gone silent. Apparently, even Uncle Verge couldn't think of anything to say to this one. That was a bad sign. "No," Jack said. "Sorry, but this doesn't make any sense at all." "Yet I am here," Dracos reminded him. "No," Jack said firmly. He turned his eyes away from the away to the left, away from the dragon head staring up at him through his right shoulder. "This isn't real. It can't be real. It's some kind of trick." "Why would I wish to trick you?" Dracos asked, sliding around Jack's back to his left shoulder, and again looking up at him. "What purpose would it serve?" "Stop doing that!" Jack snapped, twisting his head back the other way. Reaching around, he pulled the hanging sleeve back around and got his right arm into it. "I don't know why. What purpose does anything serve? What do you want?" "I want that which all beings desire," Dracos told him. "Life." "And what, you can't live anywhere except on my back?" Jack demanded sarcastically. "No," Dracos said. "I cannot." Jack had been about to fasten his shirt's sealing strip again. Now he paused, frowning down at the gold scales on his chest. "What do you mean?" The Kadar are not like other beings, Jack Morgan," the dragon said. "We cannot run freely for longer than 6 of your hours at a time. After that, we must return to this two-dimensional form and rest against a host body." "Or," Jack prompted. "If we do not have a host, we fade away and die," Draco said. "I was nearly dead when you appeared. Your arrival, plus the fortunate fact that your species is able to serve as a Kada host, has saved my life. For this, I thank you. You're welcome, Jack said automatically. Not like I had a choice. So what, you're some kind of parasite? I do not know that word. A parasite is something that feeds off its host organism, Jack explained. It takes food or something else it needs from the host. I take nothing from my host, Draco said. I must use the surface of my host's body, but that is all. You take away his privacy, Jack pointed out. I offer companionship and protection in return, Draco said. For that reason, we consider ourselves to be symbionts with our host, not parasites. But perhaps you do not consider that a fair exchange. Does your species require more loneliness than I understood? We all like to be alone every so often, Jack said gruffly, trying to hide the sudden pang of emotion. Loneliness. Whether he'd meant to or not, the dragon had touched a painful nerve with that one. So why me? Why didn't you wrap yourself around a tree or something? It does not work that way, Draco said. We must have a proper host. I do not know what it is that makes one species acceptable and another not. Perhaps none of the Kada do. Oh, Jack said, for lack of anything better to say. So, what now? That is your decision, Draco said. Do you wish me to leave? The obvious answer, yes, unexpectedly got stuck in Jack's throat. If I said yes, where would you go? He asked instead. I mean, there's no one but me here. After 6 hours had passed, I would die, Draco said softly. But I am a warrior of the Kada. I will not force myself upon you if you do not wish it. Yeah, Jack muttered, hunching his shoulders with indecision. Intriguing though this might be, he still had troubles of his own. The last thing he could afford right now was to take on passengers, especially a passenger who looked like a bright gold dragon. That was definitely not the way to keep a low profile. Look, Dracos, before you decide, I must add one other piece of information, the dragon said. The reason we are standing amid the wreckage of my ship is that my people were attacked. Moreover, we were attacked by the ultimate weapon of the Valaga, our mortal enemies. Jack shook his head. Never heard of them. Uncle Verge? No reference on the books, the other said. I would not expect you to know them, Draco said. Like us, they live a long way from here. Our voyage took nearly 2 years, human measure, and carried us across a great void of space. You mean like from another spiral arm? Jack hazarded, trying to visualize the map of the Milky Way galaxy from the limited and highly informal schooling Uncle Verge had given him between jobs. All of the explored space, both the human colonized regions as well as all the other known alien species and planets, lay along the broad band of stars called the Orion Arm. To get here from outside that band would be quite a trip. That is correct, Dracos confirmed. We came in hopes of fleeing the Valaga and their terrible weapon. Yet the weapon was here waiting for us. They must have followed you. Impossible, Dracos said. As I said, their weapon was here ahead of us. And on human-designed ships, too, Uncle Verge pointed out. Unless your Valaga fly Jin 90s? The only explanation was that we were betrayed, Draco said. You have to help me find those responsible. Well, no, I don't, Jack retorted. Look, I'm sorry your people got nailed, but this isn't any of my business. You are wrong, Draco said firmly. The death chooses no favorites, be they Shanteen or Kada or human. There is no defense against it, and there is no bargaining with the Valaga. If they have formed a secret alliance with one of the species in this region, all of your people are in deadly danger. What do you mean, no defense? Uncle Verge asked. There is no material that can block the weapon, Draco said. Its range is short, but all within that range die. We must bring warning to your people. Jack made a face. Yeah, well, that might be a little difficult, he said. You see? Quiet! Dracos cut him off suddenly. What? Jack whispered. Footsteps, Dracos whispered back. Someone is coming.